when you met other realtors and investors, had you started, how were you learning? How did
So
you
I
know
was,
which, underwriting calculator to use? And were you by yourself or did you have a group?
yeah, great question. So at that time, there's even more information now than there was back then, like online education.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
wasn't very much in the funnels of like real estate education or anything like that, but I did hear of Bigger Pockets and I was listening to their podcast. I was reading their books. I have plenty of them on my bookshelf over here. Um, and then they had an online calculator that they used to give for free. I don't think they do anymore, but it was overly cumbersome. So I created my own version, simplified version of their like 10-page one into like a one pager that I could quickly filter out investments that made no sense and then detailed analyze the ones that do make sense. Um,
Interesting.
and the concepts are really easy. I mean, as an engineer, it's a little bit of addition, subtraction, maybe once or twice you multiply and divide, but otherwise, like it's the math is very easy. It's getting the data to put in there accurately. That's a challenge. And then feeling confident with the numbers that you put in place. That's where talking to other investors and confirming, oh, is this what you're seeing for average utilities? Is this what you're seeing for rent? Do you have vacancies? Like 8% vacancy of rental income is around 1 month of vacancy. Are you seeing 1 month more, less? Like learning what was real to then plug in made it much better for me, not just analyzing in a vacuum, but
Right.
analyzing based on real numbers by real investors in the market that I was looking to operate in.
So your calculator is something that is rather sought after. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, is it the original one or were there many iterations? And how can we get your investing calculator?
Yeah, so that calculator is in the graveyard. It's phenomenal. It was phenomenal for its purpose. But for me, it's my current calculator, the Ultimate Creative Finance Calculator. It is and was online. There's a free one that you can download anytime on my website, michaelmnat.com, or you just go on like my Instagram at michaelmnat or mnat. Then you can find all those links and resources. Otherwise, I do have my paid calculator. There's a paid calculator. You pay one time, you get lifetime access to it. But I'm bringing it into my, like, I have a community of super investors. It's something new that I've started to help people
Yes, yes,
on what
you
I've been able to
are.
do. And
And
they
I
get
want
access to
let
it.
okay, we're gonna what the heck? Let's just jump. Wait,
I'll
let's
give a
talk.
quick, I'll give like a 5-second summary of what I've done since then to now from the very first
Well,
property. Is that
yeah,
good?
I guess we'd better at least talk about who the frick is this dude? How did he get into my show?
Yes. So Pace Morby. So let me give a very quick summary from that very first property. Like I said, it was my proof of concept. So then I said,
Right.
real estate is phenomenal. I'm going to do more about this. But because I was house hacking or using my VA loan to live in, a property and
Yep.
then rent on the other side, I need to wait 1 more year to be able to do that again. So I said, I want to learn more and more about real estate. So I started learning about wholesaling, where I can find great investment opportunities and then put them under contract and then sell them to end buyers. I started doing that out of state in Huntsville, Alabama. And I
Wait,
wanted to
you were
learn.
still in Alaska
I was still in Alaska while I was doing that in Alabama.
and
I
you were
didn't want
doing
to
it
do
in
it in
Alabama.
Alaska.
Okay.
Yes. I was just basing it off the metrics of if the goal is to sell properties or put properties under contract to sell them to end buyers, well, where are more end buyers at? In Huntsville, Alabama, parts of Florida, these were areas in which there was a lot of buyers for investments. So what I did was I would talk to them and see what they wanted. I would reverse engineer and then find them what they wanted. So I always had a buyer for the deals I put under contract.
Oh,
Where a lot of
good.
wholesalers are looking for deals and then trying to sell it to anyone, I
Right.
work with buyers to find them exactly the deals that they wanted because then I knew exactly how much I'd be making as well. So it gave me confirmation of my numbers. So I
That's
did
good. And
yeah.
it's also kind of analytical, the way you'd expect an engineer's mind to work. Did you come up with it on your own, or was that part of Pace?
No, so Pace is even later. I had 27 rentals before I even heard about Pace.
Really?
Mhm.
Good for
So
you.
Pace helped me elevate to a whole nother level in a variety of reasons, which I can touch on. Um, did the wholesaling, and then I was able to house hack another property. I combined my ability, like I started learning about seller financing and creative financing, so I did not have to wait as long. This is still before Pace, actually, as well. So I learned about seller financing, combined my off-market deal finding in my local market of Alaska, looking for more multi-units to buy creatively. Long
Cool.
story short, I was able to get 20 rental cabins under contract that were going to generate me thousands of dollars a month in cash flow And I was able to structure in such a way between the bank and the seller, I was going to make money to buy this property that then generated me a bunch each month. And that's what I got
Okay, wait. This is where everybody goes, really? It's really true and possible? Wait a minute. Do a background check on this guy. Let's see those HUDs.
Hey, I'll take you
Oh
to the
my
cabins.
God. I'm so happy for you. Was it in Alaska?
Yeah, so all those first 27 were all in Alaska. Well, I guess what's that? That's 26. So the first 26 were all in Alaska.
Cool. Cool. How did you, since you hadn't come in touch with, who I consider one of, a fantastic mentor and a bit of a magician, how did you figure it? It wasn't from, I don't think it would have been from Bigger Pockets because I was following Bigger
No,
Pockets.
no one there was able to help. So it was the concept of seller financing. The seller had equity in which, like, let's say it was a $800,000 purchase price. They had around a $400,000 debt. He needed around $100,000 to $150,000 of his $400,000 of equity, right, to then be able to do his next venture. So what I did was said, okay, well, what about that other $250,000? What can we do about that? Because I need to bring in 25% down to buy these cabins. I don't have 200,000 plus closing costs and all that to buy this thing. I do want to buy it. Is there a way in which we can structure this for it to make sense? So I haphazardly implemented the Morby method, which is take out a new loan, a commercial loan, buy the property, and then have the seller basically transfer back the funds and then finance it to me over the next 12 years. I was able to structure better terms with him than the original bank, than the actual commercial bank. And that was the only way I was going to be able to make it happen because it was military, right? I didn't have a ton of funds and I needed to, that was the gist.
What about paperwork? I mean,
so that was really
Pace
tough.
has always been a big one on paperwork. How did you even find that?
So I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was two simple things combined into one complicated transaction. It was a new loan, which any title company will do, and then it was a seller finance loan, which any title company can do as well. And then just combining those two, because the bank allowed the seller to carry 10% of my down payment, we already had a lot of that stuff done the right way with the servicing company, who I pay to pay the seller. We just took that and then expanded the loan from 100,000 to 200, like 30 something thousand. So then I didn't have to pay any money and then, ended up with a little bit more. It was fortunate because seller financing isn't overly complicated. It's done all the time. And Pace, my mentor, right, our mentor, who's so phenomenal, he didn't create any of this stuff. He's just better than anyone else at articulating and helping other people get in the fold. So especially seller financing, very common. It was combining these two common strategies into an uncommon way of buying and holding real estate, which we actually dubbed the Morby method, which I didn't know until a year later when I heard about Pace Morby.
How cool is that? That investor, that seller, very fortunate that you were able to connect with him.
Yes. So I connected with him about a 2-unit property that he had because 20 rental cabins was not even on my radar. It was his 2-unit that I wanted, but he was moving out of Alaska, wanted the 2-unit to be able to go back to when he visited, but needed some of the money to then be able to buy his next property in Colorado. So that's how we were able to structure it by really, as Pace says, finding the bunnies. I understood what the seller needed and structure the perfect deal for him and for me. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work for either party.
How cool. How cool. So you were already kind of doing the thing, even though you hadn't even met Pace.
Yes.
When did the dude come along? Like, when did you join Sub2?
Yeah. So at that point, I had a year left in my contract. So this was around the 3-year mark of my first contract. I decided, you know what? I'm thankful for my service. I've done what I came to do. I'm going to get out. I told the Army HR that I'm basically out, or I'm out when my contract renews in 10 months. And so I started that transition out process and I thought, okay, I'm basically retired. I have $7,500 a month coming in every single month from real estate.
Nice.
That sounds cool. Like it was great. Right. But at the same time, I was moving back down to San Diego, which is very expensive. So I took on another job as a high level environmental health position with the county of San Diego. And that's when I met Pace. He was coming down to San Diego. I watched one YouTube video of his about the Morby method. It was just it was literally like fate. And he was explaining this concept because obviously Morby method meant nothing to me. I didn't even know who Pace Morby was, but I was getting hit like everyone else with the ads and seller finance. So I was getting hit with the ads. And there was a video on the Morby method where he was very simply systematically, step by step, explaining the thing I haphazardly did and got lucky with, which is what you're saying, the contracts and this and that. Like the seller I had no way to force the seller to send me back the funds after closing. I didn't even think about that. Like I didn't know the money should have been in escrow and then released to me.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think of any of those things.
And you were also,
Fortunately,
there was an angel guarding you, because if it was the wrong person, yeah, it
and
could have been
fortunately, I
bad.
built a good relationship. I mean, we literally signed the contract. We were at a bar drinking like Bloody Marys on a, like we were building a relationship. That just was the only thing that felt natural. Is just be. People ask me all the time, like, how do you negotiate? So I'm like, I'm just like a normal person. Like, I'm not trying to negotiate. People ask me, like, with my coaching and all that, like, oh, how do you like do these marketing and sales and all that? I'm like, I literally don't know anything about marketing and sales. I just know how to talk to people like a normal human being. And we
Mhm,
build, either we resonate or we don't. And that's
mhm.
okay.
Yeah,
That's all I've ever done is just be a
right,
good, normal person and be kind to other people. Fortunately, it works out, but it's not like some master plan. And if it
right.
was, I'm telling you right now, my super secret is to be nice to people. So try it out and see if it works for you.
Well, I also think what Robin said earlier is true. All that
Mhm.
talking when you were a kid, now
Right.
it serves you, because you are a good speaker, and that for many people that can really stop them in their tracks.
Mhm.
I've seen it, so I'm a little bit more like you. I don't care if I put my foot in my mouth, it'll come out, it's not a big deal. But that can be something that people have to develop, or they
Mhm.
don't feel they have. So when did you join Sub 2?
So that was, yeah. So right after that video, I like called and talked to people, said, I don't need to be sold. I'm in whatever this is. I want more tools in my tool belt to learn more creative financing. That's all I cared about at the time. Pace was in San Diego for the Bigger Pockets
Oh,
convention conference twice in 1 month. And at one of the times, I went up to him and I was talking to him because, I like to talk. And I have this cringy photo or video or whatever of me like explaining, oh, I did the more, like literally my hands. I'm like, and then hindsight, I'm like, who am I to talk to this guy? Like, I don't know. It just felt weird. Like, I'm over here, like, telling him things like, oh, I did this thing and blah, blah, whatever. And he stunned me in that moment. He basically told me, when I told him my situation, that I was basically free and financially free and didn't know what to do next, he stunned me and said, dude, you're not. And like, I opened up that I'm at the same time as I felt financially free, I was also very depressed because the burden of my portfolio was actually killing me because I put everything on my own shoulders. And he literally was the first person to tell me. There was I had no one around me could articulate what was going on, but he was so far ahead that he could easily see it and provide a solution, which was, you've literally created a job for yourself, because I was finding my deals, renovating them, managing them myself, doing every single step of the business, into the bookkeeping, everything. And I hated all of that. I liked the monthly income. I hated a lot of this other stuff. And he said, all I've done is create a job for myself that I hate. And as an engineer, I'm not even getting paid very well because I could be making a lot more just doing my job 40 hours a week. And I was like, what
sorry.
the hell? Like, what are you talking about? I was shocked. That's not
Yeah.
what I was
And
thinking.
then your wait, let me give you this money so I can join your mentorship.
I know. Well, and I did that before. So then I pay and I'm like, dude, I joined. I saw this video. It was like perfect. And he tells me, dude, you're like doing things so wrong, which thank goodness he did, because I changed everything based
Yeah.
off that conversation. Was just like, I
Yeah.
did build myself a job that I dislike,
Yep.
that is not paying me well enough. And he
Yep.
said, take that same time, take that money that
Yep.
I was already underwriting for property management, for repairs and all this, but I was just keeping all my cash flow instead of
Mhm.
dedicating it to the right sources. And he said, free up your time by giving your property manager 10% income. Just do
Right.
all that stuff. You've already
Right.
underwrote it. Do that, because your time, not only will you enjoy your life more, you'll
Yep.
enjoy this business more,
Right.
but think of all the other things you could be doing with that time. I've never really valued my time in that sense of like,
Mhm.
well, what is my correct dollar per hour? And it's not only just the dollar per hour, like what are the higher level tasks that I could be doing, but what are
Mhm.
the things that I would enjoy doing more of as well? And
Right.
that set me on a whole different path of the scale that I've done. I mean, that was one thing. The
That
last
that
few
is a
years that I've
very
been in sub
interesting
two,
thing, because, it's like being, penny wise and pound foolish,
mhm,
right?
100%.
Especially when you're coming with the kind of background that you're coming from, and
Mhm,
I also mine was definitely, more drastically poor at
mhm,
the very beginning. But, when you're hustling to get those side jobs so that you can make ends meet or get a little bit ahead and stuff, you don't really think about, wait, why am I working for such a small amount? Instead, you're
Right.
thinking, oh, and this much will go to profit. Yay. So I get it. We just weren't in a position where Pace was, where he already understood that money is there to be used and to help you grow. And you can always get more money, but you can't get as much time. And if
Right.
it's made you dislike it, now it's working against you.
Right.
So yeah,
And that's why I didn't want to grow my portfolio. He highlighted that too. I said, I don't really know if I want to buy more real estate. I think I'm going to retire real estate investing. I've done really well. And he said, yeah, of course you don't. Because the more you add, the more work you have to do that you don't enjoy. So mentally, you're going to sabotage any opportunity to buy more real estate. It was like, oh, duh, that makes a ton of sense. So like he helped unlock at that point, mindset wasn't even I just work hard. Like I worked through everything for better
yeah.
or for worse. And it was like, okay, well, wait, there's a lot more to this thing. It's not the strategy of buying real estate exclusively. It's everything. Your
Yeah.
whole life
Oh,
is,
I know.
this is a huge component. How do you integrate it effectively with your life? And what I've been able to do over the last 2 years, scale even more than I did back then. Like those are a crazy like 16 months. And then what I've done in the last 2 years has been like drastically even better, but it's also been with the appropriate lifestyle design, uh,
Mhm.
which is huge for me right now. Like
Yes,
lifestyle design with my baby and everything is like my family and time enjoying my life and in the journey is
mhm,
way more important than just maximizing dollars. And
mhm.
honestly, with that mentality, I end up doing better financially because then I can outsource things to the right people as opposed to me trying to do everything not as well as they can. It's just this funny
Yeah, I
thing.
agree with you, and I see other people having their eyes open to that, like Rex, Shippy, and I see other people who are understanding that, and that is a very important aspect for sure. So, you met him in San Diego
Mhm.
about 2 years ago.
Yep, September of 2022.
Oh, geez. I don't often feel this way, but I'm jealous. I started before you, and there's no way I have half of what you do. But that's not a competition. But
Right.
here's the thing that,
Well, it is just against yourself.
yes,
That's it.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly true. Talk to me a little bit about what you have done since, because, or maybe we should do it this way. Why don't you tell us what you're into now? Because I find it very interesting that you have not only amassed a good team,
Mhm.
but that you are absolutely changing your entire lifestyle. And it isn't just about the money. But
Right.
talk about that, because I think our viewers may know and they may not know. But I would like to talk about, the intentional investor. You've got a mentorship that you've got started, a private, you know, group now. You've got school. I,
Yes, so
there's a lot of things going on, bud, and
yes.
I want to know, how big is your super investor community, or is it too late for me to join? What's the story?
Right.
Because I'm very excited about what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, so and that was Pace too. Like Pace has played I tell people like I joined Sub 2 to learn a little bit more about creative financing, but like Pace changed my life because he was the role model that I needed to understand, let's just say me as a provider, there's a lot more that I can do to be a better husband, a better now father, and I could spend my time and energy more intentionally. And just a lot of mindset stuff that I've never worked through up until even now. Now I'm really in the phase where I'm really focused on like mindset and growth and trying to overcome some past things. Usually I just worked through everything. But over the last 2 years, I really took a lot of what Pace said, either directly to me or to others, and embodied them in the sense of he literally said people join the Sub 2 community and some of them exclusively join, and all they do is just buy a few properties a month. And then I thought, well, why can't I be that? There's someone else is doing it. Why can't I be the one who's just buying deals? I don't want to sit there and wholesale and all this extra crap. I just want to buy and hold more real estate that generates me passive income and then builds my wealth through debt pay down and property appreciation. That's what I want to do. And he said, if I can go back and do any single skill set, the thing I would focus on more than anything is raising capital. And I said, why can't I get really good at freaking raising capital? Like, why can't I do that? So I've just continued like taking the first lesson of how I built a business that I hated, like I just did not enjoy being part of, that raising capital and buying deals to create essentially my step-by-step blueprint of how how like over 40 times now I've consistently bought and hold real estate using none of my own money by packaging great investment opportunities and then working with capital partners to then own these assets together, or they get solid returns on their money. So I've just really been focused on that entire process. And
Because it is the linchpin, isn't it? I mean, you can always find properties,
right.
and you just have to find the right ones.
Hmm.
But if you don't have the money, it's difficult to always do seller financing.
Right.
So if you have, the source of finding good PMLs or PMPs, now you've got the keys to the
And I
kingdom.
think maybe because of what position I'm in now, I actually think it's the opposite. I think the more valuable position is finding great investment opportunities and then presenting that to capital partners. So I'm never asking for anything. What I'm
Oh,
doing is providing them a great investment opportunity so
mhm.
that they can be part of this deal with me or not. I feel like there are more people out there that have money than have access to great deals. So my job is to find these great deals and provide them to capital partners to work together on them. And that's been a huge part of it. And I say that very specifically and intentionally because of the mindset shift that I had to overcome. Like, remember as a child, I couldn't even, someone offered me pizza at their house. I can't even eat that. Right. It's nope, sorry, it's impolite to eat even that's something. So I'm never asking for anything. All I'm doing is providing great investment opportunities if others want to partake in that. It's been a huge mindset shift when it comes to raising money.
Interesting. Very
Mhm.
interesting. That is a little bit different. Good. Good. So talk to us about your PMLs or PMPs. Which is do you do more often? What sort of like so you're going and you're getting the end buyer again, like you did when you were wholesaling. You went and got the right buyer, and then you went and found the property. Now you're getting the partner, like what is it that would be the perfect fit for them? You're going and
Mhm.
getting that and then bringing it to them.
It's like both kind of simultaneously. Like I'm telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing. These are the returns that I offer. Is this something you're interested in if and when that deal arises? So then, and then I'm actively looking for great, like my business partner and I are actively looking for great deals to
Mhm.
then bring to capital partners. Um, and I basically was going to retire in August of this year. Just a couple months ago, I quit my job. They wanted me to come back into work. I said, dude, I got a baby. The last thing I need to do is come back into the office. And my real estate portfolio is making more than my W-2 income. And I don't mind being since no one else really tells you, my portfolio at the time was making around $20,000 a month and in cash flow. The debt pay down alone is around $35,000 a month. We're paying down debts. We're paying like $65,000 in mortgage payments. Now more than that, 85-ish thousand. A third of that is going to pay down my debts, and my properties are appreciating in value at the same time. I say
Nice.
that just to be very transparent so people understand what is possible, whether you're using your own money or not. If you're finding great deals, you're getting these returns, if you do them right.
Right.
Um,
I don't
so
know.
just say that for the
So
sake
how
of
much did you end
transparency.
up with net then? That you could keep for yourself. Now it's interesting
No,
because
that's
it
my
is
portion. That's
okay.
not the
Oh,
whole
that
portfolio.
is
That's my portion.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Very,
so I
very
was gonna stop and just say like, "Hey, this is good." I told Pace we had a one-on-one. Like, I think I'm done here, and he said, "Cool. You've won the game of being financially free for yourself. Now the goal is how many more people can you help? And not only can you help them on their journey to do this, but also, like, and he said, value your time. Make sure you're being fairly compensated for it. Otherwise, just go spend your time. If you really do want to retire, go spend your time with your wife and baby, and that's it." But he knows my work ethic. That like I'd be
yeah.
working on something. So just make sure to value your time now.
Right.
But then also it was now the more I'm still buying real estate, the more money that I make, the more that I can help with the causes that I care about. The environment, veterans. I don't think a single veteran should ever be homeless. And then child hunger. I don't think a single kid should ever have to worry about where is their next meal coming from. Like
Yeah.
those are three causes that I care about immensely,
Yeah.
and not exactly in that order. Say children, veterans, then the environment. But
Wow.
and he said,
So
the
because
more.
I was going to ask you the question and you just answered it.
Yes. And one of the big ones too, like I said, I love helping people, right? I wanted to be a doctor to help people. I wanted to do that with the environment or engineering, the environment, and then now with the real estate investing, because what I've really come to realize is I could care less about, like, I don't care about houses. I don't care about a single house that I own. It is an asset that allows me to be financially free so then I can do whatever I want with my time without having to worry about money. And in hindsight, I've always been running away from the poverty of my childhood,
Yeah.
so that because my mom, as amazing as she was as a provider, and when if and when she did have time, we were always doing fun stuff together, but there was virtually no time that she could spend with us because she always had to work. So I
Yep.
said, if I'm gonna have kids and a family, which I think is one of my biggest purposes, I'm not gonna do it in such a way that I have no time for my family. So now that I can help other people do the same thing and take control of their finances and free up their time to pursue whatever their passions are, that's a passion of mine, very much so. And that's the super investors community is we have right around 70 people who are actively, this is like my paid mentorship, where people are actively learning the step-by-step process and implementing that. Well, there's my beautiful wife and my baby, like my why above everything else, where they are learning step-by-step financial freedom, mastering deal analysis, finding great deals consistently, raising the money to buy those deals, the step-by-step blueprint that I'm implementing every single time to maximize returns and minimize risk. And the sixth piece is all my like operations and systems to make the process as efficient as possible. Like that's what I don't want to work harder than I have to. That was a big takeaway from Pace. And I really want to work on the things that make the most sense for me. So then I designed basically a step-by-step process to make that as efficient as possible to safely and effectively scale your portfolio. And that's kind of all I've done over and over again. And that's what I'm helping other people do through super investors. And then my
Wait,
free wealth,
is this
the
this
real
is not
estate.
your super investors?
No, but it's okay. I mean, just DM me if
What
you're
is
interested in that.
okay, so what is this then?
That is my free. So I also have a free school community called Wealth Through Real Estate, where I'm explaining deal. I think deal analysis is fundamental for any type of investment that you're doing. So knowing your numbers, whether you're a lender, buyer, whatever, and
Okay.
that's what Wealth Through Real Estate focuses on. Plus, it educates more on like lending and bird dogging. The way I mentioned, I used to wholesale, and then raising capital and connecting it to good and proven operators. That's what Wealth Through Real Estate is for, and that's a free community for anyone that wants to join that on
Nice.
school. Then I have my super investors community on school as well.
Oh, give me that if you don't mind, or drop it in
Yeah.
the chat and I'll highlight it because
So you'll see here that the old URL is intentional investor. And that's what it will show right
oops,
now. However,
sorry about that. It
it's
didn't
okay.
seem to.
Pace has dubbed me as the super investor, and I'm just going all in on that. I don't know how I feel about being a super investor, but I love the idea that I'm creating a community of super investors. So the super investors community is something I'm very passionate about, much less so than me myself as a super investor. The URL will change in the near future, but for the time being, it's based on what my old mentality was intentional investing. Like if you're going to invest, make sure it's assets that are pushing you forward towards your financial freedom goals, and understand that every investment that you're doing, like you have a choice to analyze that or not. And everything that you're doing to minimize everything that you're doing as part of your due diligence is maximizing your returns and minimizing your risk. So please do your due diligence, because once you're in the asset, it's a lot harder. And now you have someone else's money on the line potentially. You have maybe a seller's credit on the line. Like be a good borrower, be a good buyer, take care of everyone around you. And it's to your own financial benefit as well. It seems obvious, but like what the F
Nice.
are people doing sometimes, you know?